Imagine you are standing in a war room, staring at a map, and somewhere on that map, a tiny line, a mountain, a river, or a narrow strip of land could decide whether thousands of soldiers live or die. We often think wars are won by bigger armies, better weapons, or stronger economies. But sometimes the real winner is decided long before the first shot is fired, by geography. Because in war, a map is not just a picture of the world, it is a blueprint of power. Look at any major conflict in history and you will find the same hidden pattern. Armies don't simply fight for land, they fight for the positions that control everything around it. A mountain can become a fortress, a river can become a wall, a narrow passage can become a gateway, and a coastline can determine whether an entire army can be supplied. This is why military commanders spend enormous amounts of time studying maps. They are looking for something most people never notice, the places where geography turns weakness into strength. Imagine two armies facing each other across a wide river. Even if one army has more soldiers, crossing that river under fire could turn its advantage into a disaster. Suddenly, the river is no longer just water. It has become a weapon. Now imagine a mountain range standing between an invading army and its target. Moving through the mountains could take weeks, exhaust supplies, slow vehicles, and expose troops to ambushes. But find a narrow pass through those mountains, and suddenly that tiny piece of geography becomes one of the most valuable locations on the entire battlefield. This is why certain places appear again and again in military history. The same valleys, passes, ports, bridges, and crossroads become battlefields because controlling them means controlling movement, and movement is everything. An army can have tanks, aircraft, missiles, and thousands of soldiers, but if it cannot move fuel, ammunition, food, and reinforcements to the front line, its power slowly disappears. This creates one of the most important ideas in warfare, the supply line. Imagine an army moving hundreds of miles into enemy territory. At the front, soldiers may look powerful, but behind them stretches a long, invisible chain of trucks, railways, roads, ports, warehouses, and bridges. Every kilometer that army advances makes that chain longer and more vulnerable. Cut the chain, and the army at the front can suddenly become trapped.
This is why maps can reveal something weapons cannot: the distance between an army and its ability to survive. But geography does something even more powerful. It creates chokepoints. A chokepoint is a location where movement is naturally restricted. A narrow mountain pass, a bridge, a strait, a canal, or a single road connecting two larger regions. Control that location, and a much smaller force can sometimes slow down a much larger one. It's almost like putting a door in the middle of a highway. You don't need to control the entire highway. You only need to control the door. And this principle doesn't stop on land. At sea, maps become even more important. A narrow maritime passage can connect entire oceans, allowing ships carrying energy, food, and trade to move between regions. Whoever can monitor or influence that passage gains enormous strategic leverage. Now, look at the world from above, and something fascinating appears. Countries that seem powerful because of their size may actually have serious geographic weaknesses. Others may be smaller, but positioned near critical trade routes, natural barriers, or strategic waterways. Geography can give a country defensive depth, or trap it between mountains, hostile neighbors, and limited access to the sea. And this is where maps become more than tools for generals. They shape national strategy. Countries build roads and railways through certain regions.
They construct military bases near strategic coastlines. They protect bridges, ports, tunnels, and airfields. They form alliances partly because of geography. Sometimes, a country doesn't need to conquer an entire region. It only needs influence over the locations that connect it to the rest of the world. But there is an even deeper reason maps decide wars. Geography does not change when politics does. Governments can fall, borders can move, weapons can become obsolete. But mountains remain. Rivers continue flowing. seas remain where they are, and narrow passages remain narrow. Technology can change how wars are fought, but it cannot completely erase geography. A satellite may see across a continent. A drone may strike from hundreds of miles away. A missile may travel faster than any army in history. But eventually, someone still has to move people, equipment, fuel, and supplies through physical space. And physical space has rules. This is why one small location on a map can sometimes matter more than an entire city. Control the bridge, and you control the crossing. Control the port, and you influence the supply route. Control the mountain pass, and you can restrict an entire army's movement. Control the choke point, and you may influence everything trying to pass through it. The strange part is that when we look at a map, we usually see borders. Military planners see something completely different. They see routes. They see obstacles. They see vulnerabilities. They see opportunities. They see where an army can move, where it can be stopped, and where it can run out of options. And once you understand that, wars begin to look completely different. Because the battlefield is not really the place where armies meet. The battlefield begins on the map, sometimes years before the first soldier arrives. The next time you look at a map, don't just ask, who owns this land? Ask a more important question. What does this location control? Because throughout history, the answer to that question has helped decide who advances, who retreats, who survives, and ultimately, who wins the war.